So today I really want to talk to you about a couple of things. The first thing is to do with Project Magi from Google. It's a new update that's on its way, and if you don't know about it, then stay tuned because it is going to potentially really help you get a lot more clients and a lot more business and a lot more sales. However, it might get you a lot less traffic, and we'll go into that. I also want to answer a question from Benjamin Bowman, and in fact, let's tackle that one first. So Benjamin Bowman, who has a Substack and also an amazing podcast, he's just getting started, but is really, really good, and some of the people that he's had on are absolutely exceptional. Benjamin asked me recently via LinkedIn, if you were a founder and had something that had taken off, perhaps is blown up on Product Hunt or Reddit, how do you keep that momentum and how do you optimize? Basically, what do they need to do, or what should I do? So the first thing is you've managed to do one of the hardest things, and that is to find a product that people actually want. I really can't stress this enough, and it's something that's glossed over when it comes to conversion rate optimization. You quite often notice that if you look at conversion rate optimization websites, they'll quite often say that we aren't there in order to validate a product. We're there in order to optimize something with an existing product that is already taken off so that you can reach the next level. And the reason is that you can have the greatest landing page in the world. You can optimize absolutely every little nook and cranny, every element on the page, and it doesn't mean squat. And the reason it means absolutely nothing is that unless you have a product that people want, then forget it. You might get a sale here or there, but really you're not going to get any sales. And that's a major problem for most brands, particularly new businesses. They think they've got something that's amazing that absolutely everybody wants. And in reality, nobody really cares about it and nobody wants it. Secondly, collect data. That's really, really important. Make sure that you're collecting events. Make sure that you're setting up goals correctly. And make sure that you're tracking things like, well, what buttons are people clicking on? You can also use things like heat maps, which are somewhat useful. They're not amazing. And the reason that they're not truly amazing is that it doesn't incorporate eye tracking. So it's very difficult to know what people are actually looking at. You can only really track, okay, well, what are people clicking on? How far down the page are they going? And also what are they kind of hovering their mouse over? So it's somewhat useful. Visitor recordings can be very, very useful. You can quite often pick up on problems. Let me give you an example, a really recent example. I had an opportunity to potentially work with a very well-known client within the design space. I can't really say who. And they sell a number of products, and it's products that they make themselves. So it's things like guides on how to do branding, guides on how to run an efficient business. They have workshops. They also have membership plans, etc., where they have you can have one-to-one calls with people that are very high up in our industry, and they were getting, for one video that they had, it was a short on YouTube, had 16 million views. And they were getting well over 20 million views on YouTube every month, but they were getting next to no traffic from it, which is crazy. But they had a demand for the products and people were buying their products. That was one of the major problems that they were wanting to try and solve, but they were also really looking for more traffic. And I was arguing, no, you don't need more traffic. What you need to do is you need to take that 20 million views and then get as many people as possible from your content over to your website. That makes perfect sense to me because Google's highly competitive and the chances of you getting your content ranked high up is slim to none. But in YouTube, you're smashing it. You're also smashing it on social media, and that was actually where most of the traffic was coming from because they had a call to action and their videos didn't have a call to action. I analysed their website and I found that it was exceptionally slow to load, unbearably slow to load. The other issue they had was they had an SSL certificate set up incorrectly. So that's when you get the little padlock and basically tells people this is a secure site, and also tells your web browser it's a secure site. So you get HTTPS. The problem was that because it was set up incorrectly, there was a number of web browsers which were actually blocking the website from showing because they didn't trust the certificate. They also had their design company, which is again very well known, and their site was down for days because their SSL certificate expired, and it was actually me that raised the alarm. They had absolutely no idea this was the case, and it took them a couple of days in order to rectify it, which, to be honest, is something that should take 5 minutes. Now, with the page speed, you fix it in 5 minutes, and you can fix the certificate in 5 minutes. Now, how this ties to visitor recordings are that if they were to watch visitor recordings, they would have seen actually there was an issue with their SSL certificate. They would have also found that the website was exceptionally slow to load, and as a result, people were abandoning their website. Now, you might be saying, well, who cares about website speed? Website speed is critical. Not everyone has ultra-fast internet, including on mobile devices. And also the further the person is away from where the server is for your website, the slower your website gets, unless you set it up correctly. And I would say that speed is one of the biggest things that's going to have an impact on your conversion rate, because people just do not have the time. In fact, a recent study found that people have the attention span of a goldfish. If you can believe it. Actually, I think the goldfish won. I think the goldfish actually had a better attention span than the average human, which is just frightening. But when you put that into terms of web design and conversion rate optimization, what that means is that you have literally seconds in order for your website to load and for you to convey your message and why the person needs it, and also how they can act. So collect data. It's really, really important you know how people are interacting your website. And the data will also tell you, okay, well, how fast and how slow is my website? As well as, what devices people are using when they browse the website, what they click on, what they look at, how far down the page they go, etc. And all this information can help guide you towards optimizing your website and creating sales funnels. Now, in terms of the optimization of the website itself, also look at traffic. Traffic is something that, again, that is glossed over, but you'll find that when you look in Google Analytics, or it might be Mixpanel, whatever your analytics might be, Yandex, you'll find that there'll be certain sources of traffic that perform really, really well. So you might find that, for instance, social media on Facebook is absolutely smashing it. You're getting a ton of conversions. You might find that organic search is absolutely nailing it as well, but referrals are lacking, or etc. Every website's different. Every business is different. And you also, something to also take into consideration is also what's called an assisted conversion. So you'll find that within your data that perhaps the person arrives first from social media, and then they use a branded search term in Google, and that's when you get the conversion. Now, what will be typically recorded as getting the conversion will be Google search, but you might actually find that that's not actually the first touch point. It might be one of many. And obviously, the more expensive your product is, or the more expensive your service is, there'll probably be more touch points along the way. Now, if you've got the right amount of data, if you have a high performing website, so it's very quick to load, and you're really focusing and knuckling down on the sources of traffic that are converting the best, what's next? Next thing is start running A/B tests and use your data to help guide you. Now, there's general best practices that I would say that probably should be in place first. So things like, I would say really trust is the most important thing. If people need to trust you, they need to trust your brand, they need to trust your product, they need to trust your website. So how do you tackle trust? Well, there's things like you might have review widgets, you might have testimonials, customer reviews, that sort of thing, where you've been featured, etc. and try and incorporate as much of that information as you can above the fold. Now, above the fold is the area that people see when they first land on the website. And you'll notice a pattern here with what I've been previously saying, what I'm about to say. This is by far the most important part of the page. And as I mentioned earlier, you've got seconds in order to tell people, okay, what is it, why they need it, and how they act. Additionally, why they need to trust you. If you can do that, then you will see an increase in conversions, undoubtedly. And page speed, believe it or not, is also a part of trust. I forget the data off the top of my head, but it was quite dramatic in research that was conducted. And if people would come back to a website, if they would buy from a brand, and do they trust the brand based on the performance of the website? And they found that even small incremental changes in how fast the page loaded had a massive effect on the number of people that were converting. So again, it's about trust. Page speed is also about trust. You need to trust your brand, and you know that what you're talking about, and what you, and you're so do that and you'll succeed. Other best practices are your call to action. So is your call to action very clear on the page? So is the text nice, bold, legible, so that I can easily tell quickly at a glance precisely what it is that you're offering and why I need it? And also, is there a button there, a high contrast button that doesn't match in with the other branding colours? And that's quite key, because you quite often find that, let's say for instance your theme or your branding is white and blue. Well, you quite often find white and blue throughout the entire page. Problem with that is that when there's a lot of white and blue, or whatever your branding colours might be, your call to action button doesn't really stand out on the page. It just kind of merges in with the rest of the blue. However, if it's a different colour, then it will just jump out at people. And I would run a number of A/B tests, try different text, try different value propositions, and see what converts the best. Another thing that you can do if you're needing help with copy is to use ChatGPT. Everyone's talking about it. Let's say you sell red dresses. So analyze all the Amazon reviews for red dresses and look for the most common likes and the most common dislikes. And what this will do is this will give you a list of all the things that people love about red dresses, and also it will give you all the things that they hate about red dresses. And there are objections that you can tackle in your landing page, and there are also things that you can use as value propositions within your landing pages. So if the number one thing is it makes me feel confident going out at night, then that's what your main value proposition will be on your landing page. And you might be thinking, well, how does this apply to SaaS? Well, you can analyze industry books, as well as various other products and things that people use that are within your target audience. You can also ask it to analyze the most common words that are used and most common phrases. And again, you can incorporate that within your copy. And this is called the mirroring technique, and a lot of people use this in business and day to day. Like for instance, if they're in a sales meeting with someone, they might start mimicking their body language, or there might be certain phrases that people use. So for example, maybe the potential client says super all the time, like that's super cool or super good, and by mimicking them, the other person feels as if they have a stronger connection to you, they like you, and as a result are more susceptible to actually making a purchase. And the same principles apply to websites and to copywriting. If you use the same language and the same terminology as your target audience, then you're automatically going to boost your conversion rates. So again, test this. There's lots of different software out there that you can use, very low cost, that will allow you and able to do variant tests. And a variant test is when you have one version of your website and another version of your website, and you show it to perhaps 50-50, split your traffic, and you see which one converts the best. And yeah, so best of luck with your optimization. Now, on to Google's Project Magi, and I am getting less and less enthusiastic and excited about Google. I think it's so difficult for brands in order to break through and really get their content seen, unless it is something like a branded search term. So GoGoChimp, obviously GoGoChimp is going to go and rank high for GoGoChimp, but other things, even, keywords and keyword phrases, which maybe have like a tiny handful of people, maybe like 100 people, are so mega difficult in order to break into that it's almost a waste of time. And particularly when you think about, there's a number of brands out there. They basically have a team of people creating written content, producing it, mass producing it, sending it out there, hoping that they start ranking up in Google. They maybe hire SEO teams, spend an ungodly amount of time trying to get backlinks from other websites, networking, etc., and to slowly climb up the ranks for search terms that maybe have like 30 or 100 people searching for it every month. And to make matters worse, what Google's doing is that they're essentially, in my opinion, trying to keep people from going to other websites, which sounds so backward considering that it's a search engine. But it is by far the biggest weakness that Google has. And the same applies for the Google ads. Yes, they make money and they make a lot of money from their ads, but ultimately they're sending people away from the search engine to other people's websites. Now, you probably noticed that in search results, they quite often now try and give you the answer within the search results. And this is making it harder and harder for brands to get clicks to their website, because people, whenever they search for something, are automatically getting the result. And Google's now working on, in fact, some people have access to what's called Bard. It's their version of ChatGPT. On Bing, they have ChatGPT. I think it's version 3.5. And basically what that's doing is it's giving people the answer, which is a bit of a problem, because if it gives them the answer, then it's not giving them the click. And Google is now working on what's called Project Magi. And the update really aims to revolutionize the way that we search and complete transactions online. As I mentioned, it's known internally as Project Magi, and some of the details have leaked online. And in fact, they have 160 engineers working tirelessly to create a new search engine experience that will eventually replace Google as we know it. Although there aren't many details available, some exciting information has been leaked. Now, to begin with, it's a conversational interface really that's designed to batter Bing and what they're doing. One of the main goals is to create a more conversational search experience similar to how Bing uses ChatGPT. And Google recently revealed Bard, which is a chat-like interface that's very similar to Alexa and ChatGPT, unsurprisingly. And basically what really interests me is that both Google's Bard and also Bing's ChatGPT is that the interactions are on the fly and allow users to ask questions, which it then provides relevant personalized answers that are adapted to the user. So while this might not necessarily work with all search queries, it's pretty much going to tackle most of them, particularly in the rise of voice search. And now Google's looking to facilitate transactions directly on Google. So instead of having people visit a third-party website, so if you were to go and click on an ad, maybe go to Amazon, for example, instead you can just buy the product there and there. You can book a flight, etc., just all within Google and within search. And what that means is they're sending a lot less people to other websites, which is by far their biggest weakness. So for brands, it's potentially very good. It potentially is going to get a lot more conversions because people are going to trust the website and it's faster, etc. And it'll be interesting to see how cost per acquisition ends up being. If it ends up being a lot better for brands, then great. But again, it's keeping people on Google and it's not getting them to your website. It'll also be interesting to see, well, what details are then passed from Google onto the brand itself. So for example, one of the big things, particularly in e-commerce or even in SaaS, is that you need someone's email address so that even if they don't convert, you have a chance to then use cart abandonment, or you might start to use your content in order to nurture them along to make that eventual purchase so that they trust you more and they feel that it's basically a no-brainer. And it'll be interesting to see, well, is Google going to pass on any of that information? Are they only going to pass on the information for completed conversions, or are they going to allow you to run some sort of abandonment ad? And again, is that abandonment ad going to be strictly within Google itself? So it will be very, very, very interesting. And oddly, Google's Danny Sullivan recently stated that Google search sends billions of clicks to sites daily, with more traffic directed to the open web every year since its inception. But really, it's another nail in an already leaky coffin for SEO pros. And I really do think that search engine optimization in a traditional sense is really on its way out. I really do feel that way. And I think it's going to be a lot harder for brands to really rank higher on Google, particularly with the rise of AI, because people are able to mass produce content. And while Google is actively working on things in order to tackle AI content so it can identify it, they've already said that, well, even if it's AI content, if it's helpful and people like it, then we'll still, put it high up in the rankings. There will be other factors, but also with each development of things like Chat GPT, we're on currently version 4, which is vastly superior to 3.5, and it's going to continue getting harder and harder for anything that Google builds in order to identify if people are just mass producing content or not. And probably the content itself will probably end up being a lot better than what us meager humans can write. But the problem with that is that it's available to everyone, and even if it was a very expensive product, you very quickly find that the people that utilize that content would start to dominate, and it's going to be that there's going to be so much competition out there. There's going to be so much AI content out there that it's going to be almost impossible for anyone to rank high for, regardless of how many goddamn likes you've got, or how many tweets or backlinks or any of the other things that you commonly look for. So yes, where would I put my money? I put my money on things like YouTube. I know TikTok's performing exceptionally well, albeit it's been banned in the US. But yes, I would look towards YouTube. It's much quicker, much easier, less competition, although it demands a lot more time. And I mean, you feel like crying, but there's now a rise in companies that are working on AI products that basically is Chat GPT, but for video. We already have images with the likes of Midjourney, but now we're looking at video, and video is going to make it very, very difficult in order to rank there. And it'll soon be that we won't really know if we can trust if it's actually by a person or not, which is scary and interesting and difficult at the same time. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.